Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Cook.
Here.
Councilmember Fairley.
Here.
Councilmember Osborne. Here. Councilmember Thomas.
Here. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have a presentation by King County Metro South Link Connect project. We have Genevieve, Jeremy, I don't know who wants to start. Who's you'll start. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for having us here today. As Councilmember Fairley mentioned, we're here to talk about the South Link Connections project. So that's our project to restructure bus service once light rail extends down all the way to the Federal Way. So I'll have our team come up and introduce themselves, and then give you a little rundown of what we'll go over, and then pass it off to Jeremy. So Jeremy, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Hello. Good evening. My name is Jeremy Victor. I'm the South King County Team Lead in the Service Planning Group at Metro.
Good evening, Luke Distelhorst, Senior Community Engagement Planner.
And for the record, I'm Genevieve Jones-Sheeker. I work for Government Relations, and I'm here representing Amanda Pleasant-Brown, who's our local jurisdiction lead, which is sick tonight, so she can't be here. But tonight, we'll start sort of with the background of the project. We will go over the impact specific to Algona, and then we'll go over the engagement that we've been doing with your community and with city staff in the duration of the project, and we'll take questions and answers. So, Jeremy, we'll get it.
I guess
Again. Yeah, I just wanted, so you all have printouts of the slides, correct? Okay, so we'll start with the background slide, and then I'll just kind of let you know when we're moving on to the next one, so we can go to change pages. But the South Link Connections, as Genevieve mentioned, project is a service redesign project in South King County that'll restructure Metro bus service with the Federal Way Link extension. As early as 2026, Sound Transit will expand the Link Light Rail 1 line from Angle Lake to Federal Way. The extension includes 3 stations, Kent Des Moines, Star Lake, and the Federal Way downtown station. Recognizing that the Federal Way Link extension brings a huge transit investment to South King County, the South Link Connections project will restructure Metro service in the project area to best integrate with the link extension. And that will move on to the next slide, project scope. As part of the South Link Connections project, Metro is evaluating changes to 22 different bus routes. These routes were chosen because of their proximity to the future light rail station, or because they provide service into Seattle that might be duplicative of light rail once it extends to downtown Federal Way. And on this slide, you can kind of see the project area map as well as a listing of the specific routes and areas that are included within the project area. Go ahead and move on to the next slide, the engagement timeline slide. So the project is conducting 3 phases of engagement, which allows for iterative design of the network that builds off continuous feedback from the community. We started our public engagement in spring of 2024. Our focus was to educate the community about the project, identify mobility needs in the study area, and recruit for our mobility board, which is our community advisory board, and our partner review board, which includes jurisdictions, institutions, major employers, community-based organizations. And we work collaboratively with all of those groups throughout the project. All jurisdictions were invited to participate in the partner review board, and together the mobility board and the partner review board helped to shape our project priorities and design concepts, which were reflected in our phase 2 network that I'll be talking to you a little bit about here shortly. The need to be heard guided the project team in developing draft changes to the network, which we are currently sharing with the public through the end of February. What we hear in phase 2 of engagement will help us further refine the initial concepts, formalizing them into proposed changes to be shared again with the public during our 3rd round of public engagement to collect additional feedback. And we hope to return to this forum during our 3rd round of public engagement to provide another update if you all are amenable to that. After that, the 3rd round of engagement, We'll finalize the proposed changes and submit those to the King County Council for adoption around the spring 2026, and then we're planning to implement our restructure starting in the fall of 2026. Now we can move on to the next page. What's informed the Phase 2 network? This slide has some information on all the things we considered when designing changes to our service. Starting on the left, we have our data and analysis, understanding how people are traveling, where our priority populations live, and how current services are performing. Jumping over to the right, we have our capital and operational considerations, which is all about making sure that whatever we propose is operationally feasible. So ensuring that buses can operate on the streets that we're proposing to have them operate on, make the turns that they need to make, etc. And lastly, the middle of the bucket is about community input and using the findings of our Phase 1 engagement, prior research, working closely with the mobility board, partner review board to really understand important connections and destinations and prioritize mobility needs. Our mobility board and partner review board helped us to land on 5 prioritized mobility needs that shaped our Phase 2 concepts, which we'll be getting into here shortly. So this next couple of slides basically list out what those prioritized mobility needs that I spoke to just a moment ago. And so I'll be talking about how what we're proposing is responsive to those prioritized needs. So let's see, greater transit coverage. We're implementing 2 new Metro Flex pilot zones in Federal Way and in Auburn. These zones will increase the number of people with access to transit and provide connections to 2 major transit hubs. Improved early morning and nighttime service. We're providing earlier and or later trips on 7 different routes in the project area. Faster travel times within and beyond the project area. Some routes are reoriented to serve the link stations and provide connections to Link Light Rail. We're also adding new frequent services and having trips come more often on local routes. And we're improving travel time and directness between West Federal Way and downtown Federal Way through some of the structural changes that we're implementing. Turn to the next page. We have a couple more here. Last 2, improved east-west connections. We hear about this a lot. We're adding frequent transit on 2 main east-west connections. We'll get into one of those here in just a moment in more detail. And finally, increased weekend service, especially on Saturdays. There are 2 routes where we're adding new service on weekends where it doesn't exist today. And we're also proposing routes come more often, earlier and later in the day on weekends as well on several routes. In total, we're proposing 35% more trips on Saturday and 75% more trips on Sundays compared to today. Network trade-offs. So in order to implement the improvements in this South Connections network that I just mentioned, there are trade-offs that come with that. The Phase 2 network removes 10 peak-only routes and reinvests those resources into improving all-day 2-way service. Of the 10 peak-only routes that are proposed for removal, 9 are currently suspended and have been for a number of years at this point. The only peak-only route that's currently operating today that's proposed for removal is the Route 177, which was from February 2006. There are also reductions proposed for unproductive and low ridership service to use those resources to invest in prioritized mobility needs. So those are the trade-offs. And then with that, I want to just transition to talking about Algona a little bit more specifically with these last couple of slides before I turn it over to you. So, as you may know, the Route 917 is the one route that operates within Algona itself. We are not proposing any changes to that specific route. We did implement some pretty significant changes on that route in the fall of 2020 as part of the Replicant Auburn project. So we added Sunday service to the 917 with that project, and we improved the frequency on weekdays and added some evening service on that route as well. So we're not implementing further changes on that route as part of this project, but we are making some significant changes to the Route 181, which connects Federal Way, Auburn, and Green River College on the hill. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in the next slide. So the Route 181 provides a really important connection, as I mentioned, and it is one of the 2 new frequent east-west connections that we're going to be providing as part of this project. So this will provide a really nice connection for kind of around the area around the super mall, the outlet collection there, and the light rail station over at Algona, and basically connect all the same places it does today, and while also providing a new connection to link light rail to the Federal Way downtown station. And there's more details on this slide in terms of the frequencies by time of day, day of week, etc. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Luke to tell you a little bit more about our community engagement efforts.
Thanks, Jeremy. Again, Luke Distelhorst, Senior Community Planner. So now I'm on the slide that says engagement overview on top. And I always try and talk about our engagement sort of like a multi-layered cake. We really do very different engagement to reach very different audiences. So right now, the main kind of bulk of our engagement happens through our Southland Connection survey. It's available online. That's where we get the most responses. We then do a lot of very targeted, specific engagement to reach other audiences. So we're out at bus stops, transit centers, park and rides, talking to people in person. We partner with community-based organizations, which I'll talk a bit about next slide. And then really working with other service providers, resource centers, partner agencies to make sure that we're engaging populations that we might miss in an online survey. All of our materials are available in 15 languages. Obviously, South King County is extremely diverse, and we want to make sure that people have the language access that they need in order to be able to participate. On the next slide, you'll see some highlights of our community-based organization partnerships. So these are organizations that we don't just provide information to, but they are paid partnerships where we're providing some capacity building, and we're asking them to do culturally relevant and appropriate outreach to the populations that they work with and represent. So the locations you'll see there on the map are not just those geographical locations, but we know that the populations that these organizations work with live throughout our project area across city boundaries. So it's trying to reach a more representative population of our project area in a way that best suits their needs. Some communities like to be engaged online, some in person, some at a place of worship. Whatever the right venue is for that community, we try to have appropriate outreach so they can participate in the project. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Jim.
So now we're on the how cities can get involved slides. This is where we bring it back home to you all. So you all are welcome to take the survey. It closes this Friday. You can find that at southlandconnections.com. We hope that you received a copy of our social media toolkit. Those have very easy posts if you choose to share this information in the survey on your Facebook or in your newsletter blurbs. We hope that you support the participation of city staff and our partner review board as our group of individuals who our city staff that meet. I want to say we met maybe 3 or 4 times last year to help develop the proposal. And then you are always welcome to reach out to myself or to Amanda with any questions or concerns. And with that, that takes us all the way to the thank you and questions slide. So thank you very much for your time today. And I'll invite my fellow presenters up here so we are able to answer any of your questions.
I've got just one question about the community engagement. Do you have a number of the percentage of people that actually participated in the online? You said it was popular, like how do you measure that?
So you mean like total number of responses?
Yeah, like a percentage of the community that's actually going to be using the services.
Yeah, that gets to be a little bit harder. I can look into that and see. We normally ask people to identify if they're like a current transit rider when they take the thing, so I'll get back to you on that. I know we've had over 2,000 responses online so far.
Has the mobility board been organized already? Do they have people for that?
Yeah.
I'll stay
You
up
can
here.
just
I'll
go
stay
and
up
stay
here.
up here, yeah.
Yes, yeah, the mobility board was selected basically after phase 1. So part of the phase 1 engagement, when we're doing that initial engagement, is the introduction of the project and the recruitment of the mobility board. So in between the first phase of engagement and the second phase is when that mobility board is formed, and then they start to work on the priorities for the mobility needs. So now they've been through one phase, they'll start meeting again after the second phase of engagement ends, to then look at the engagement results and start prioritizing those results before developing the final network that will go out for the third phase of engagement.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay,
Thank
anybody in the audience have any questions?
I had a lot of questions like it's on the slideshow.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. We'll be back in the summer to see if you have more time to tell you about the proposed final network. And Luke helpfully brought some little one-pager handouts if you want to hand them out before the survey closes on Friday.
Yeah, we'll drop some off.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item 5, discussion. We have nothing for discussion. 6, audience participation. The city council encourages public participation during meetings of the city council and all committee comments. There's time to set aside for you to speak as city council on any issues. The council ordinarily takes non-agenda matters under advisement before taking action. You are also invited to comment on action items as they are considered during the meeting. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each in addressing the city council. When addressing the council, please speak clearly, audibly, state your name and address for the records. Anybody who'd like to speak?
My name is Jim Welks, 215 Seattle Boulevard South. I got a thing in the mail about supposed to pay $50 for rentals. And I talked to you guys about it a few years ago, and you brought it up. And I'm against it, what am I supposed to get out of this? What do you get out of this $50 for every rental deal? So all I got to do is raise everybody's rent income. So what am I gonna get out of this? What's the $50 for?
It's a lot.
$50, what's it for?
Mr. Mayor, can you answer the question?
I'm glad to tell you. So, it's a license fee. And
If I don't need a license, it's not a business unless it is 650 hours of work on it, if it makes it a business. That's the definition of a business according to the government.
Jessica, you help with this, please.
So right now we have city code that requires rentals to have a license, and it's the that's what the $50 fee is it's essentially a business license, so to speak. It's a rental license for you to have a rental here in the city.
So what am I getting out of it? Just a way for the city to make more money or what? What's it for?
I mean, that's a question for your council. It's for us, it's income for our general fund.
Yeah, but I take care of my rentals, I don't need to be bugged by the city. So what the heck am I supposed to get out of this? Besides giving you guys money? What's my advantage to having this license?
Well, number one, it's in city code. I think it helps
Well,
city
so
to.
what? What's my advantage?
Okay, let me get there. It's part of city code, which means it's a law. It helps the city understand and know which properties in the city are rentals. It's an annual fee of $50, correct?
Yeah.
So it's not a monthly fee of $50.
No, it's
So that's not
$50.
arduous.
$50 every year, and I've had rent
Yep.
for over 20 years, so I'm supposed to be spending
So
all
I think
this.
that's the intent of that ordinance. I don't know that you don't necessarily get anything personally out of it, except for, we identify those properties in the city. I mean, but you get a certificate. That's what you get.
Huh?
You get a certificate that says you get a license for that.
So it's just a way for the city to make money.
No, we're not making money, $50, that's not a ton of money, we're not, it's not like
probably cost more in paperwork to,
Yeah, but why should I have to do it every year?
Because that's what the code says.
Yeah.
Just like you get, licenses and,
because
other things.
if you sell one of your houses, then you don't have to do that, but if you buy a new one, then it's the way the city can keep track of what is rental properties and what is owned properties and so if we have a problem with a house, let's say the water bill is not getting paid, if it's not a rental, or if it is a rental, we don't know who owns it, or, it's a way for the city to keep track of what's going on, who owns the properties, and the bills are getting paid, and it's not an undue amount of money, it's just.
Except I have to raise my renter's rent now.
So you're gonna divide 50 by 12, and then
So-
add that to the rent of your tenants. That's certainly your prerogative, but you're talking, dollars a month.
Anybody else have any questions?
I don't think it's bogus, I couldn't disagree with you, but we can have a good conversation about it, but here, council, if you guys come by my office, I'd like to spend some time. Here all the time, every day.
Is there any other audience participation?
There's a lot more to it.